Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to the Tuesday night YouTube Model Builders Hangouts. This is the Barry and Mike MRR Tech Show, our live hangout presentation. So this evening, it'll be me and my buddy Mike here. We'll be talking about switch controls and JMRI with switches and such. Originally, I accidentally mentioned on the live show Saturday night that we were going to be talking about signaling, and that won't be actually happening until next month. That was my mistake. But tonight we'll be looking at a presentation that Mike and I put together for Model Railroad University up at Amherst this year, and then we'll go and discuss some of the different methods and use of JMRI as well. So. And do not forget, YouTube Model Builders is your source for free model railroad resources, such as our free online magazine, the eMag, our live chat presentations, the Hangouts, like you're hearing tonight, and to join us live every month for the YouTube Model Builders live show. Everything you want to know about what's going on in our community is on YouTubeModelBuilders.com. If you go there and go to the eMag tab on the right side of the screen, at the bottom you can subscribe, and we'll be using that to notify people when the eMag is being published, when the live show is, when the Hangouts are, that we're starting to use that to send out information about what's going on in the community. So go ahead and subscribe. All right. So, like I said earlier tonight, we're going to be discussing all of our different methods of turnout control, and this is all based on the clinic that Mike and I gave at Amherst this year with Miles Hale and crew. So, starting next month, we'll be doing our signaling. So, we'll be starting with prototype signal operations and where you place signals on your railroad, and then working into what hardware, etc. To use in building your signaling system. But tonight we're going to have our presentation here. So, you all ready there, Mike?
Sure, dude. Put the slides up.
All right, let me fire it up here. So, screen share. Bingo. All right, make sure I'm presenting to everybody.
That looks familiar.
Yes. So, what we have here is the presentation for this evening is our methods of turnout control by myself, Barry Rocher, and my pal here, Mike Dettinger. This was something we put together for MRU, and we decided this would be a great place to show it off and discuss the different methods we came up with for everybody. There. All right. So here's the different methods of turnout control that we discussed. Of manual types, we have old-fashioned slide switches, ground throws that everybody knows, such as Caboose, Hobbies, etc. And then the Bullfrog from Fast Tracks, and the Blue Point controller from A-Line. Let me show you different examples of them. Oops. So here is the use of a slide switch. Kind of an older idea, but the nice thing about it is you can cover it with scenery, so you just have the actual switch sticking up. It gives you built-in power routing controls or signal controls using the contact of the switch. And it's simple to do. You cut a hole in your base there and use a heavy gauge piano wire. You mount into the switch head itself and into your throw bar, and you have instant turnout control. And as far as cheap, this is pretty much about as cheap as it can get, except for you doing it by hand, say with the Pico. Now, the other one here is our ground throws. And these are the one that everybody knows, the venerable Caboose Hobbies throws. These come in various sizes, designed for different scales. You can get it with optional contacts for controlling again your frog polarity signals, etc. So they're very versatile, and they are not very expensive either. And at the end of the presentation, we do have a cost comparison of all these different methods. So here is the Bullfrog controller. This is a little nice cut wood kit that you can get pretty inexpensively through Fast Tracks. Right here is what the actual assembled unit looks like. Here's how it comes in the flat, and then it mounts up under your layout, and it's controlled by a push rod akin to the push rods you would use in a radio control airplane, say to activate the flaps or the rudder. And you can see in this top photo on the right there's a knob on either side that you can push-pull, and you can operate the turnout from either side of, say, a peninsula. And the little square boxes on the opposite sides of the actual Bullfrog are supports for the pushrod system. Now here is an option that goes with it. It's called the Sidewinder. It lets you mount it horizontally. And this method only requires about 2 inches of vertical clearance under your layout. So if you're looking to do a thin front edge on your layout, so you can have more space between levels, say, or lighter weight bench work, this is an ideal choice if you want to do manual, because it only requires 2 inches of vertical. For the regular Bullfrog Sidewinder horizontal mount only needs 1.1 inch clearance. And this is what one of the FlexLink kits looks like for controlling it. The wood knob mounted onto the push rod here, and this connector on the end there mounts into the switch assembly, and you clamp the red tube with your mounting clip here on the back of your panel or your fascia, and then the yellow tube and wire move in and out through the red tube. It's a pretty robust system, very easy to use.
Hey Barry.
Yes.
The thing is with the Bullfrog, right? All the hardware is not included; it's a la carte. So you have to get the push rod separate and the sidewinder separate. So it's kind of like it's a neat little solution, but you just get the wood from the Bullfrog piece. The metal pieces you got to provide yourself.
Yeah, you get this here with your hardware and your wire. I think you can get an optional with a micro switch as well, but like Mike said, the mounting pieces here, the mounting blocks, the support cable if you want to use it like that, or the actual push rod itself are extra cost options. So not that they're optional, but they're extra cost.
Right. Another thing you'll notice too is we go through these different pieces. A lot of these guys have like 4-inch clearance. They're basically direct Tortoise replacements. So if you mount these, you decide you want to go to Tortoise, you have all that space consideration and the the fulcrum setup like the Tortoise do. But the one biggest disadvantage of the Tortoise I see is just the fact that it does take up so much real estate, whereas the Servo takes up so much less. And with this Blue Point, it's you basically see that the frame and everything, and that it looks exactly like a Tortoise without the guts.
Yeah, pretty much. It's got one thing nice with the Blue Point is it actually has 2 sets of contacts for power routing built into it, whereas it's extra with the one for Fast Tracks, the Bullfrog. And this is kind of a one thing. It just mounts literally just like a Tortoise up under your layout, and the only difference is you have the option if you're using the flex rod here to control it, which is virtually identical to what's used in the Bullfrog. This one's a little more expensive because it's built-in contact, it's molded from plastic, but it's basically the same solution. like Mike said, this takes up pretty much the same vertical space as a Tortoise does. So there's, it's a cheaper option if you want to go manual operation, but there's no DCC control with manual turnouts if that's what you need or want. Now we get to the venerable Tortoise, one everybody knows, loves. Once you start doing a cost analysis, you start to realize pretty fast that Tortoise can get pretty expensive if you want to go down the entire road of DCC control. Tortoise by itself you can get pretty cheaply and operate it cheaply. Once you need to add DCC to it, the price goes up pretty significantly. But the Tortoise, as everyone knows, it's a stall motor type switch machine, meaning the motor drives to one end and keeps trying to go until you reverse polarity and it goes back to the other end. So it's always drawing power, not a whole lot. It draws a minimal amount of power, but it basically sits there pushing. That's how, provides pressure to the points against the stock rails. It's powered simply by a 12-volt DC power supply. I think it uses like 20 to 30 milliamps to drive, and then at rest it's like 15 milliamps. And it's literally controlled by a toggle switch in the basic form. And if you want to add DCC, there's methods of, you can use various options, such as the NC Switch It, a Digitrax DS64, or the ones from DCC Specialties plug right onto the edge card connector down the bottom of the Tortoise. And the hair is a single one. I think the Wabbit is dual, and the Jack Wabbit is 4 or 8. We're going to look at them a little closer. And the Tortoise has, again, a built-in double pull, double throw switch for power routing or signal control, etc. This is simple Tortoise wiring. Like I said, it uses 12-volt DC power supply. It runs 15 to 16 amps during when it's at rest, holding your turnout in place. And you use a double pull, double throw toggle, so you have your power inputs, and the outputs are crossed here so that when you flip the switch one or the other, it reverses the polarity on pins 1 and 8. That's what drives the motor. And then the other outputs here, your power feed from your track go to here, and then this is one switch contact out, this is the other switch contact out. That way it can reverse polarity on your frog rails. So this is part of the built-in motor circuit here, contacts. Now we get into me and Mike's favorite, Tam Valley servo controls. So here, power is DC. Voltage varies by which product you're using. Control is via DCC commands or a local located fascia controller circuit. You can see up in the middle picture here, there's a little board with a couple LEDs and a push button on the cable. That's one of the fascia controllers. And there's several different models you have here. We have the singlet micro DCC servo decoder, which is in the top picture here. That is strictly servo driver board and fascia controller as a little kit, and you provide your own servo bracket with it. The switch right is a complete machine with a built-in decoder, so it's got the bracket, servo, control board, and fascia control all in one piece. And the quad pick is a 4 turnout control board, and there you have to buy your brackets, your servos, and your switches, your micro switches to control it. And one thing to note with the quad pick, it has no feedback to JMRI, and neither does the singlet or the switch right. The quad LNS underscore S here is a 4 or 8 port turnout controller that has local net jack, so it can feed back to JMRI the actual position of your turnout. And trust me from experience, if you're planning to use Panel Pro and build a CPC panel or a layout control panel, you need this. You can do it with this board, but then you have to use switch contacts off the actual switch machine and feed them to another board that can then send a signal back to JMRI. So, for the few extra dollars, you buy the quad LN, and it'll feed the signal back for you. Now, to program one of these, you connect the jumper or power in your DCC track bus right to the board. There's an address jumper you install, and then what you do is you send a switch throw command or a switch close command to whatever address you want the first turnout to be. And if you're using all 4 servos, say, on the board, it'll start, say you throw switch 1, it'll then go 1, 2, 3, 4 for the 4 switch addresses. So it just does an order from the first one you're supposed to. If you throw 8, it would be 8, 9, 10, 11. And you see the push buttons in the bottom left corner of the board here. They are used to set the servo endpoints, and also the speed of the throw can be adjusted there as well. The quad pick also has an auto alignment jumper, but I don't like that as much because it punts back and forth, tries to measure the force. I prefer just aligning it myself. Now, the board you see here is an alignment board that you use with the quad LN. That board you plug into the quad LN, and then you use the same push button to set your endpoints. And everything with these servo systems are based on the standard 3-wire servo harness. So it's the same harness, same wiring standard that is used in any RC car with servos. Now here's a new kid in the block. Barrett Hill Trains servo controls. Their control blocks, or control bases as they call them, are powered by 5-volt DC. Controls via local touch control that's connected to the servo base, and then they have under layout servo mounts with, like this one, and without a single pole double throw switch. Again, they're using standard 3-wire servo harnesses. So, I mean, literally, you can buy an off-the-shelf wiring harness to use with these things. The little gray thing here is the touch toggle, as they call it. So that mounts behind your panel, and it senses the touch of your finger and trips the circuit. But downfall to me to this is no DCC control option. There's some possibilities of some method of it coming down the road, but nothing official as of now. So this is what your control panel would look like. These little gray touch toggles mount behind a piece of like plexiglass where you pasted a copy of your track layout onto the back of the plexiglass, and these use double-faced tape that go right on the back of the paper. There's an LED in them, shines through paper. They can be mounted behind glass or plastic. You can use transparent or translucent, a little adhesive pad that you mount them onto the printed layout drawing. Now, the touch toggles have on, off, or momentary, so you can use them. They have a relay base that you can use to control turning things on and off with a momentary switch. And they have a new type, looks just like this, but it's a different color base, called the touch trigger, and that's designed for use with electronic circuit controls such as Tam Valley servo decoders or Team Digital servo boards. So what it means is, instead of putting the fascia controller from Tam Valley on there, this thing plugs in its place and does the same thing. So you can use this style of nice, clean, flush panel with no switches to push, no buttons to break off, no toggles to snag your clothes on. Now, so before we get into the cost comparison, Mike, is there Anything you and you want to go over on any of this stuff?
No, just basically that the Barrett Hill. We had an opportunity to speak with those guys at Amherst in January, the end of January. Really cool product. The guys were pretty receptive to chat with us, and the touch triggers and touch toggles are pretty similar, but the touch triggers are basically the result of the Tam Valley being a little finicky with the touch trigger, the touch toggles. They made the touch triggers to take out some of that mess and make it work better. Really, it's an interesting little concept. It's you can mount these touch triggers under glass. You can make your own control panels. It's just a pretty nice, well polished, professionally finished type of control panel you can make for yourself without even getting with the pinstripes and the painting and the drilling and all the normal stuff that you usually do. You just print out a basically your track plan, put it in a picture frame, put the touch trigger in the back, and away you go.
Yeah, that's what they had. Everything they were showing was in little, picture frames. So when you put the touch triggers and touch toggles in the back of the panel, and you put the carb over the back, it secures everything in place, and it makes a really nice looking thing. And you can just literally screw it right onto the front of your fascia, and you're ready to go. You could even, recess it into your fascia if you want to, make a frame, mount it from behind, to make it, like Mike said, make it look like a very polished professional installation versus all the times we've always had toggle switches and push buttons sticking out or beveled panels. I mean, you could put the controls, say, on this level for everything down here, so it's all right at eye level. So it's a lot of nice possibilities with that. I think it's. I'm thinking that I might eventually use touch triggers with the Tam Valley option, because the only problem with Barrett Hill, like I said, is no DCC option. So.
Right, but it's a non-issue if you use the Tam Valley and you just use the Barrett triggers.
Yes.
Your control panel.
Yeah, so I think it's going to make out pretty good for us.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, they didn't say that DCC was out of the question. It just wasn't the direction they're moving right now.
Yeah, I mean there is they said besides the touch triggers, they have outputs on some of their control bases that can be used to control different kinds of systems. So it could be something they could adapt to doing DCC, but they don't seem to be very interested right now to put DCC software into their control system. But you would use this to control something else that's DCC. So not quite sure how that idea would work, but they're working on it at this point. Coming up with different methods. So.
Yep. No, I think they're going to have some neat, interesting stuff for us in the future, at least to look at. One thing they did show that I thought was really interesting too is they had this little servo mount, and you would just, you would drill like a 1.5 inch hole, and it kind of just sat right in there, and the servo mounted right in there, kind of like one of those little wire management things in the desk. You know how they you have the little cup that pops out. You popped in the servo mount there, the horn just stuck up, so you just had the horn sitting right there, very flush mount, and you could mount it close to your switch track and run your switch track with that. I thought that was I was pretty impressed with that actually.
Yeah, that's they call it a well mount or something like that, right?
It was a well mount, yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, the nice thing with it was you could literally build like a structure, like a relay shack right over top of where the well sits, and you would just see the push rod coming out the back of the shed, and that would control your turnout. So it could kind of be hidden well, or you could even cover it over with like lichen or something, build it up over it so you couldn't see the horn operate. It makes a nice, very low profile. And you did something like that on your demonstration layout downstairs, right, Mike? On one of your
I
servers?
did,
You
but
got your server?
I mounted the servo the other way. I mounted the servo up and down. This actually, the servo is mounted, um, not perpendicular but parallel to the roadbed. So
Right.
basically, with the well mount and the servo, it really just does not really even protrude underneath your sub roadbed.
Yeah,
It's
that's true, yeah.
really clean. I mean, it's
It's a
pretty
little
good.
server, all the servo systems use the SG 99 gram micro servos. They're all common like that. And they literally, they're this big, not very tall. That's from the horn to the bottom. So they actually work pretty good.
Have you seen the, did you get a chance to see the Rapido offering for their turnout mechanisms? They
No.
they're similar to what you're talking about. They're a puck that looks like that little insert into a desk that I can't think of the name of right now either for some reason. But
All right.
it's a small puck. You can drill a hole up under the turnout mechanism and slip
Right.
it up under. It has a operating switch stand.
Oh,
And
yes. I've seen pictures. I've never seen one in person.
Yep,
Mm.
and they look beautiful. Now, they are solenoid actuated, which I can't get past myself. I like slow motion. I'm going to use
Yeah.
turbos. But you can just buy the operating switch stand, which absolutely looks beautiful. So
Yeah.
I'm rather fond of that Rapido offering, even if you're not interested in the mechanics of it. But for the
Hmm.
mechanics of it, it's a DCC ready, has a, it's DCC addressable, it has a decoder in it, single component that you plug up under and hook to your DCC bus. It does not have local net feedback to my knowledge. They also have an uncoupler too that doesn't apply to this conversation, but
Right.
those two products from Rapido, and I've been pretty fond of what they've been offering, in rolling stock and stuff. Anyway, they're an interesting
Yeah.
company.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Apparently
getting
the
a chance for one of them.
yeah, the switch stand works well, but it's very finicky to hook up to a turnout. So in practice, it's very difficult to install.
Oh well, that's unfortunate because I was really interested in using just the switch stand component. I mean, I want to use the servos. I hand lay tracks, so servos are ideal for me because they let me control the pressure.
Yeah, for the switch stand component, it would work quite well.
Okay, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
pretty-
the servos are just so reliable. It's like, why mess with that? But the just to change topics, the uncoupler. I mean, that was an interesting little piece.
I have to check
Yeah.
them out.
We'll have to track them down the next chance we get Barry and see if we can get our
Yeah.
hands on some.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to go to the national show or yet, but if we go to track them down, if not, we can call them up and say, we want to do some evaluation on it, see what it looks like. You never know.
Rapido's from my area up here, and so I see him quite a bit at the local shows. Yeah, I haven't heard the returns. Like they've distributed them to all the local shops. And
Right.
that's what I know about the turnout control. The uncoupler's just coming out now, and I haven't heard about how difficult they are to install. But
It doesn't really look that hard, though. I mean, it's just an electromagnet. I mean, but the idea is pretty simple,
Yep.
and it beats winding your own electromagnet.
Or
Yeah.
assembling that KD monstrosity.
Yeah, KD had it figured out years ago. What Rapido has done is put it in one package and slapped a decoder on it. And while for guys like us that enjoy soldering anyway, that's no big deal. But for the vast majority of modelers that just loathe soldering, a single unit that is ready to plug up is a really, really, interesting product.
yeah, I bought that KD one and tried those out, and when I saw the instructions and stuff, I mean, that's too complicated.
Yeah, that thing is a little on the crazy side. You're going to wind the wire and everything. Well, let's go over our price comparisons here. Go. So for slide switches, you can buy them for less than $1 a piece for manual control. The ground throws are anywhere from 3 to 6. depending upon whether it's a HO or O, or it's got the contacts or not. Your Bullfrogs are $7 each. If you buy it with a sidewinder mount to be horizontal, which again only takes up 1.125", it's $13.95. Blue Point is almost $25.
Barry, does that include the wired, the push rods, or is that separate?
No, that did not include the push rods.
Right. So basically, that's just to get prepped up. You still gonna have to get push rods. So that's
Yeah,
gonna
the
be
push rods are they're like another $7 or $8 for the push rods.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to put that in here. I just noticed that. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So I mean, if you look at that comparison, and you'll see the DCC coming up later, you
Yeah.
have to really, really want manual switch controls to go this route. In all honesty.
Yeah.
In terms of some of the higher end solutions, anyway.
To tell you the truth, for doing like a yard, everybody likes ground throws in their yard, but slide switches to me, especially in a staging yard, make more sense because they're so much cheaper and you already got all your switch contacts you can use to report back the turnout position to a panel. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. Because you're talking less than $1. You can get them all day long for 99 cents off of eBay. But like you get an HO scale to boost hobbies throw with the contact kit, you're talking $6. So that's 6 turnouts here.
Have you heard of a modeler named Andrew Keeney?
No.
He has a model railroad named called the Nashville Road. Really nice 3-deck, large layout.
Mm-hmm.
He used caboose industry ground throws, which I loathe because they're so far out of scale. I can't get past that. And I don't like reaching into the layout very much anyway. But he took them and built these small little shelves that stick out from the fascia and have a nice rounded edge, and puts those caboose industry ground throws on that little shelf on the front of the fascia, much like Joe Fugate does, and runs a linkage through to that. That's
I mean, what I would do, and it's probably a lot more than the caboose industry, but have you ever heard of the hump yard purveyor?
No, I don't.
They actually make what looks like a switch control that you would see in a tower. So it's got the arm, you pull the little lever, flip the arm back.
Turner.
And it controls the turnout. You can use it with linkages. So you can buy a frame of them that has like 6 or 8 control arms on it, and then you feed out through linkages, like with the elbows and everything, to all your turnouts, and now it looks like a miniature control tower.
Yeah, they're Armstrong levers.
Armstrong lever. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He did that in Andrew Keeney. Also done that in his passenger station on each side of the passenger depot. He had an interlocking tower that was against the fascia, and the back of it's cut off, and he used the interlocking arms. I'm fascinated by using the interlocking arms, but I can't combine that with CTC control. So it's or DCC control. That's an either-or situation.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Andy.
Trevor Marshall also used G scale or F scale, or G scale confuses me, but F scale turnout mechanisms, manual turnout mechanisms on the front, and he puts a little padlock on them. So you have to take a key and unlock it and pull the chain loose and turn it. Anyway, there's some really interesting ways to go manual, but
absolutely, that is a fascinating idea. There's some real operation for you. So now we get into the power controls. So now, mind you, all of this is list price. I know we can get this stuff a lot cheaper, but this is so we compare, apples to apples. So a standard Tortoise machine is $21.95 each. That's no DCC. If you buy that and add the hair decoder, which plugs onto the edge card connector, the cost per turnout now goes to almost $55. If you use the Wabbit from DCC Specialties, which is a dual decoder, it's got 2 ribbon cables that plug into 2 turnouts, that lowers your per turnout cost to almost $37. It becomes $41 almost if you use the Jack Wabbit quad controller. and $42 if you use that with the local net option on the jackwagon. Now, Tortoise, Circuitron, has came out with a unit called a Smale, which is basically a Tortoise with a built-in DCC decoder. List price is $39.95, at $40 a turnout. I mean, that's ridiculous, in my opinion. But there are big fans of the Tortoise. And if you do want to go DCC, the cheapest option is use the Wabbit dual decoders. That's the cheapest cost per turnout.
If you're on NCE though, the Switch 8 is a lot cheaper than that.
Yeah, but will Switch 8 drive the Tortoise?
Yes, they drive 8 Tortoises of Switch 8.
Oh, then that's a good thing. Thanks to you for mentioning that, Steve, because that way I could add that into my presentation here.
How about feedback? Does the Switch 8 have JMRI feedback?
No, you use the AIU01 for the feedback, which is another. You can do 14 feedback loops on an AIU01 for about $30. So,
all right,
a couple dollars feedback.
So how does that feed back to JMRI, Steve?
The AIU01 it hooks up to your cab bus, which feeds back to JMRI.
Oh, through the computer interface.
Yeah, basically any feedback loop that you create either through a block detector or through your 2 terminals on the Tortoise,
right,
will close the loop and send the signal back to JMRI.
Oh, very cool. Now I understand that thing a little bit better. Now we get into the cost comparison here with Tam Valley. The switch right, which is all-in-one decoder, servo, mounting bracket, and fascia controller. If you buy it, everything pre-assembled, it's $36 each. If you buy it as a kit, where basically you have to glue the mount bracket together, fold in the servo, and assemble. I think you have to assemble the fascia controller, which literally you solder in 2 LEDs, a connector, and a micro switch. That lowers your cost to $30 a turnout. If you want to supply your own servo, your own mounting bracket, or your own fascia controller board, you can buy the bare board of a switch right for $18. Now the micro singlets, which are basically like a switch right, but you have to provide your own bracket, is $30.95, so $31. So that's a little bit cheaper there. The quad pick decoder, which controls 4 servos. Okay, so if you look out at the full cost with the quad pick board and servos, mounts, and fascia controllers, it's $102. But that's for 4 servos. So that lowers the cost to $25.43 per turnout. That's the whole comparison is based on what will a single turnout cost us. Now, if you buy it as a kit where you assemble the brackets and everything and build your fascia control boards, it's $91, which means $22.73 per turnout. You can add an optional relay board, which is $7 per servo, plus $2 for the actual, which is a one-time cost, so it's 50 cents extra per servo, is the 4 relay daughter board. The 4 relay daughter board plugs into the quad pick decoder, and you can plug in 4 relays that a double pole, double throw switch. You can also, for a little bit more money, you get a high capacity 10 amp relay that plugs in there. That cost is kind of common across all the different controls for Tam Valley. Now the quad LNS also controls 4 servos. You can see it's a little bit more money, but the big advantage is it has the local-net feedback. So it is $120 or $29.93, so $30 per turnout as it built up. I should change that up, change up the kit. The kit is $109 or $28 per turnout. And again, the relay board is $7 per servo. Yeah, that there plugs right into the quad LN. You don't need the little $2 daughter board. Now they also have the Octopus 3 decoder, which controls either 4 or 8 servos. It's $183.42 as a build-up, which is $25.43 per turnout. It's $161.82 for the kit with servos and everything. That is $20.23 per turnout. Those prices include the Octacoder DCC board, which makes the Octopus 3 DCC controllable. There again, the optional relay boards are $7 extra per servo. And here's just to control everything, to keep everything going here. Barrett Hill, they have a servo base with a servo 4-pack, which you need 2 of them because the servo base controls 8. So you need 2 servo 4-packs, 2 4-packs of touch controls, 4 servo brackets from them, and 1 setup remote, which control used to set up the different servos. The whole thing is $197 or $24.59 per turnout. If you buy the servo base with the touch toggles as a kit, rather than each separately, then you buy 2 servo 4-packs, 2 servo bracket 4-packs, and 1 setup remote. Price goes to $185 build up or $23.13 per turnout. And then now here's the other option. This one has servo base with 4 servos, 2 packs of them, 2 4-packs of the touch controls, a servo bracket with the single pole double throw switch, and your set remote. That goes up to almost $243 or about $30.34 per turnout. So now the price goes back up because you've added the single pole double throw switch onto the servo bracket. Now mind you, you can use another servo bracket and control it another way cheaper probably. This is all the stuff from Barrett Hill in these prices. Now if you buy the servo base with the touch toggles as a kit, you buy 2 4-packs of servos, 2 4-packs of the servo bracket with the switch, and 1 setup remote. And the price goes down to $231. That's all built together, and that's $28.88 per turnout. So, in the end, in my opinion, this is your cheapest route if you're controlling a lot in one area. When you start spreading them around, what you have to be worried about is how heavy is my servo wire. The heaviest duty wire you can get is like, I want to say, 22 or 24 gauge. You can probably go 8, 10 feet with it, but beyond that, there's too much of a voltage drop, and the pulse wave signal that controls the servo loses integrity, and you can't control your servos effectively anymore. So I have some that cross a module boundary through a connector that run probably 6, 7 feet, and they work fine. You go too much further than that, though, and then you won't be able to control your servos. So the only time you want to use something like the Octopus 3 or the Quad LN is in an area where your turnouts all close by. If you have one isolated turnout, your best bet is something like the Switch Right as a kit here for $30. Now mind you, again, these are all list prices. I paid a hell of a lot less for these when I bought all this stuff. It's like the more you buy, say from Tam Valley, and I believe Barrett Hill too, the more you buy, the lower it gets per piece. So like you buy like 1 to 4, the quad pick, it's like $39. If you go and buy 5 to 8, it goes down a few dollars. So the more you buy at once, the more money you save. So.
That's it, man. You buy more, you save money. Economies of scale. Reminds me of the back in business school.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the biggest thing is, you want to, you don't necessarily stick with one system. If you want, like I said, in a staging area, you got a yard hospitalist working your staging area when you have an operating session. Use slide switches. Use like the Bruce Industries throw. I like the slide switches because you can use them and have the built-in contacts, and they're so cheap that you just run a push rod under your tracks that are different turnouts, and you can have a bank of switches by the edge of the layout, just popping back and forth to control it. But me and Mike have both been long-time advocates of servos ever since he introduced them to me. And our whole club layout is set up with servos. There's nothing wrong with the Tortoises. They're well-known, they're reliable and everything, but
Tried and true.
yeah, but the cost is a little pricey. Now I have to investigate this cost with the Switch 8. Because that might alter, whether that's a different cost factor.
Yeah, you get it down to the $20-$25 range for DCC control and feedback.
Yeah, see, that's not bad. That would be, see, now there we're talking a good price range. I figured out when we bought the quad pick board for our club, and we bought all the brackets and such through Camp Valley, but we bought the servos on the eBay. I was down to around the $24-$25 range, and I only bought like a couple of boards at one time, like 4 boards, so I didn't get the extra price off the board. Now if you save $5 on a board, it's only $1 turnout you save roughly. So it actually works out better if you buy a fair amount of boards. But I wish I bought the boards with the quad LN because I use Digitrack. After that feedback, I didn't know that was such an issue until we started having junior operators go up and push the buttons on the panel instead of calling the tower to throw the switch. And that gets everything out of sync. So
this is a picture of an AIU 01.
okay.
And it has enough terminals for 14 inputs. All the I don't know if you can present it there.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, you don't want me to do a present. Yeah. There you go.
Okay. All the little orange wires are feedback, basically from the different tortoises and blocks.
Right.
And the black wire is the ground wire out.
Okay.
So basically, you send that ground wire to, say, terminal 3 on your tortoise, and when it throws, the other wire is going to terminal 4, the orange wire.
Right.
And that closes the loop. And this will send you got a cab bus connection on the right here.
Okay.
And that sends a signal back through the cab bus, and JMRI can detect that signal.
Now I understand what this board is for. I never knew what the AIU 01 was for, but that's great.
So now, even if you throw your tortoise from a panel or throw it in JMRI, you set JMRI up to look for the sensor signal so that now it knows the position of that turnout.
Right. Perfect. Man, thank you very much. That's great information to have on here. What you got there, Mike?
Oh, I got some cool stuff I want to talk about a little bit too.
Presenting you up.
Yeah, hook me up. Oh, there we go. That looks familiar. All right, so basically, Tam Valley has this thing called the train shuttle. All right, and I got one of these. I don't know if you ever played with this, Steve, or even seen this thing, but basically what it does is It's a real simple current detector setup. You basically can set up 3 or more blocks, if you will. You have an end block, 2 end blocks, and then you have a middle block, but you can have multiple middle blocks. It's set with a variable timeout, and the neat thing is that once you hit those ends or intermediate stations, you can have it throw an accessory decoder. All right, so I mean, simply put, what you would do here, this is the most simplest setup here. You just put a couple gaps in here. You would have your end 1, end 2 on the other side of the gaps, and when the train would go past the gap, it would be detected with the detector. It would stop. It would reverse directions, go the other way. So it's real simple to set up. The next one here is with the intermediate stop as well, so you have extra gaps there as well. So, and what happens at the intermediate stop, you basically, the train just stops. It doesn't change direction. But also, you can hook up accessories decoders to this guy. So you can hit your quad pick 4. You can hook that up to this guy here, and when the train hits endpoint number 1, you can have it toggle the servo, and N2 also toggles. And when it enters into it, throws, and then it closes the switch when it leaves middle. And then there's a direction change button, which you can control the fourth member of the quad pick. So it's kind of a real cool circuit, actually. And we had these discussions a while back, Barry, too, where my thought was to have like a switchback, an automatic switchback.
Yeah.
Where you would have, the train enter into an endpoint, and when it stopped in the endpoint, the switch would move, and it would just work its way up a switchback. I thought that would be kind of an interesting little use for this.
Yeah, and then when it got to the end, it would reverse the train and come back down the switch ladder.
Doesn't it have to know the address of the engine and control a specific engine?
That's a good point. What it does is it sends the commands out to every address from 1 to 99.
So it has to be on its own isolated section of track. And your locomotive has to be in that 1 to 99 range.
Right. Or it has to have a consist addressed in 1 to 99. But essentially that's what it does. It's its own little command station. It's a stripped down command station, and it just sends out commands for every loco between 1 to 99. So what you do is you get a new engine, just drop it on the track, and it pretty much works right out of the box.
But it'll only send it to that specific section.
Right, exactly. It's its own standalone little system. So if you had like a little demonstration layout or something like that, you could certainly use something like this. It's all self-contained. Let me show you. And what's really cool is, you basically get the power supply and the board itself, and it's like under $100.
It's an interesting little product. I've seen it work on Mike's setup that he had, and it's actually pretty neat. I mean, like I said, you can extend out the middle blocks and make as many station stops as you want, and the track sections can be as long as you want. Points for the gaps between each section. So I see the professor's on board tonight.
Yep.
I love it. He's a pretty smart dude, that Professor flies with him. Yeah, but he's right though. You go in the shuttle mode and manual control with the host TCC system. You can do pretty much anything with this thing,
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the little shuttle circuit. I think it's just a cute little piece of technology.
Absolutely, that's something we've never mentioned on here before. A little bit off topic for tonight, but I mean, it does have the ability to do switch controls. So it actually is sort of in line with our topic tonight. I've been, I've been considering my options too for what I want to use in my layout, and that's part of the reason I'm investigating all these different things and decided I might as well make it a clinic. But I want to check out. There's a few more options out there. I haven't checked any of the NCC controls. So now, in order to control the NC switches and stuff, Steve, that can be just controlled from a signal from the track bus, right? I don't need an NC system to operate it, right?
Sorry, like to throw the switches?
Yeah, yeah.
The actual handheld cab does have an accessory switch on it.
Right.
You can hit that and address the turnouts.
Right.
Or you can, with the addition of a mini panel, which is another $40 or so.
Right.
It has 24 inputs in it, and
Right.
you can put either toggles or momentary contacts
Okay.
to send the accessory command, and you can line up a whole series of switches if you want.
Oh, you can program routes in the mini panel.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Well, the question is, I mean, how does the switch 8 get its input? Does it come off the cab bus, or can it be connected right to the track bus?
The cab bus.
Okay, so I couldn't use it with a Digitrack system.
Yeah, DCC commands. Now it can be run through JMRI. Like, it's really simple. You just put that turnout address in JMRI, and boom, it throws the switch 8s like no problem.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because not everybody uses Digitracks, not everybody uses NCE, so that's one thing. I don't know why some other manufacturers don't make NC compatible accessories. Almost all the third-party stuff seems to be Digitracks only, or
it's not the
agnostic.
Digitracks. The Digitrack system is a two-way communications. The LocoNet.
Right.
The NCE is only a one-way.
Right.
And the AIU is the only thing that really sends a feedback that JMRI recognizes.
Okay. So I guess that's why they developed it, so they can have that feedback from their components in the NCE world.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The videos that I just posted show how setting up the LocoNet in addition to the NCE cab bus is very simple, and it's pretty economical now.
Yeah, a lot of people do that use NCE for the command stage just because you don't have all the signaling components for NCE. Well, supposedly they've been coming, but I haven't seen them yet.
No, that's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so.
No. They even tell you on the NCE manufacturers tell you it's not going to happen.
Now, at this point, with layout command control coming down the pipe, I don't see a need for them to do when they could just build LCC compatible components and sell them.
Yeah, we could talk more about that in the coming weeks in discussions with JMRI.
Yes.
But the LCC is a lot like the LocoNet. It's really almost identical to the LocoNet.
Okay, yeah, that's something we definitely want to talk about. I saw the first functioning hardware from our circuits up at Amherst. They had the booth over there, and it was pretty impressive, the little things it was doing. So.
Yeah, I talked to Dick quite a bit at Amherst because I was purchasing a signal system off of him, and I did talk to him about whether or not to wait for LCC or just to go with the LocoNet.
Right.
In the end, I decided to go with the LocoNet and run it through JMRI.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while yet, because right now the LCC board that Dick is selling has to connect to one of his components in order to operate it. So eventually, the plan is to build a standalone board that would do the same function as the two combined boards. That was the easiest way for him to get product on the market right now.
Yeah.
At least that was what Ken Cameron told me up there.
I hope you don't believe everything you hear, though.
I trust Ken. I mean, I've got to know.
I don't. I'm not saying not to. I'm just saying, you know, be open-minded, but verify your facts.
This is true, my friend.
Oh gosh, what am I looking for here?
Let me see if I fire up JMRI.
Oh, that ain't working.
And these computers don't like playing with Hangouts sometimes.
Now, Barry, you didn't talk too much about Picos. I mean, I find the Pico switches with the center spring to be like the cheapest method. Turnout control.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't actually mention that. You're right. They do work well.
For manuals, it's the easiest way to go.
Yeah, I do like Pico switches too. I mean, our club uses the Bullfrogs and everything, and it actually works pretty darn good. The only thing is, like, if you're using servos and stuff, you got to pull that center spring out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have to for tortoises, but I would probably do it anyway because it's less work for the tortoise to do.
Yeah, that's what I did. I have a lot of Picos, and I took the spring out for my.
And there's no way you're ever getting that spring back in there if you see it when it flies by your head.
On the Pecos with tortoises, you have to go ahead and remove that center spring in there.
Oh, you do, Troy? Okay.
Yes,
I kind of figured you would.
Yeah, I even tried heavier gauge wire just to see if it would actually throw it, and there's just not enough tension there to be able to throw that spring.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong spring, actually. All right.
Yeah, I believe it's only like 5 thousandths piano wire that's in there.
It
works well though.
Oh yeah, it works great. That's just the way that it's bent and the way that they formed it. It works great.
On a lot of my Picos, I've run a piece of piano wire through the foam or kind of underneath them, and throwing them from the fascia, just using a piece of piano wire in a tube.
Yeah, you could do that, sure.
So it operates almost like a blue point or something.
Yeah, so that's pretty much that's exactly what you're doing. Yeah.
What in the heck? This thing.
So, since we're talking about switching,
yes, Bob.
Let's switch topics.
Putting on manual switchings, manual throws. That's the yard that I'm kind of creating over this computer desk I'm sitting at. So, what's the best manual throw to put on, whatever switch out there? If I use Fast Tracks or Atlas or Pico.
Well, we were discussing the manuals. We were discussing the cheapest method is along the edge of your layout is to mount a slide switch, a regular double throw slide switch, and you take like a 30 gauge piano wire and drill a hole in the top handle of the switch, bend your wire, and run it over to your throw bar, and you slide it back and forth. Now, double throw switch that you can get to use. So there's a lot of options like that. And there's also the Cruise Hobbies throws. Or like Steve mentioned, the obvious, if you buy Pico turnouts, they're automatically manually operated and they work very well. So
it depends if you like to reach into the layout or if you want to run them from the fascia.
I probably would be reaching in anyway.
Yeah, Pico or Caboose Industry throws.
Yeah, Pico is great because, I mean, you just got the two little nubs to stick up. They're not as intrusive as the caboose hobbies, and you can even cut one of them off and just flick, and it just locks it back and forth. It works real well. And the only issue I've ever found with the Insel frogs is that the gap between the two rails at the little plastic point of the frog is very narrow.
Yeah.
If you have a wide tread wheel, it can bridge it and short.
Mhm.
So you can insulate the frog rails if you want to. Another trick is, the rails come like this, right? You
Right.
file inside here, so it goes bevel like that. And then now your wheel still rides on the rails out here, but now you've got, so this gap, got this gap. Then
Yeah, I've taken a Dremel to mine right in that area there, and just hollow it out a bit, and you can even backfill it if you want with some epoxy.
Yeah, and it's problem solved.
Yeah.
It's nice and easy to do, and it is mentioned on the wiringfordcc.com website about doing that. And because I tried all the other tricks, put clear nail polish over it, it wears off. Yeah, we ended up just going in there with a nice file and filing the railheads back. So instead of the railhead being like this, like this, beveled. So that way now instead of having this gap to here, you got a big gap like that. So now that solves all of my problems. I had constant short circuit, figured out what was going on, and then now I see it spark when it goes across there. And I didn't want to put a juicer in; it's supposed to be a dead frog,
Mm-hmm.
But now the problem's gone. So, all right, see what I got here. There we go. So, then we were going to there. Do that one first. Okay, so here we have the JMRI Panel Pro. This is where you go in and build all your turnouts and your controls. So in order to bring up your turnout table, which is where you enter everything at, you go under here, tables, turnouts. And let me switch over to that one now for you. I could do that on turnout table. So this is the turnout table where everything's entered. Now, what you see here is the system name of the turnout. And that's based on the number that you give the turnout plus the entry right here, the LT, is the system name you give to the connection to your computer. The default name for LocoNet is LT. So when I go into my edit menu and go to preferences and set up my connection for LocoNet, that's the default system name. You can make it whatever you want. You can make a set of turnouts and call them Y1 and then whatever for the number. That could be yard 1. What I usually do is let this take my default system name, and over here under the username is where I identify the turnout as to where it's located at. And you can, in the comment field, you can put whatever you want as far as the description. But to add a new turnout, you just click add, and then I'll probably switch over to that one because that little screen is not showing. Add new turnout. So in here, I can pick in the internal or the LocoNet turnout. In this case, I want to control the turnout through LocoNet, so that's why you select. This is where you put in. Oops. So here you put in your address. Why is that not popping up on my screen? So there you put the actual decoder address. So say I want to put decoder address 24. And the username is going to be the yard number 2, dash turnout number 24. If I hit OK, that'll add it to the table. If I want to add a bunch of turnouts at once, I can select add a range, and then what this will do is take this number and add 1 to it every time, or whatever, like if I select this and say 5. Now this will start at 24, go to 24, 25, etc. for 5 turnouts. The username will be the same, so usually in that case I would leave out the username and go back and edit the turnout after the fact. So let's hit OK here. There we go. Okay. Look at that. Go back to the screen share the turnout table again. Now you can see there we have LT24 and the username is Y2 for yard 2 and dash turnout number 24. So from here I can throw or close my turnout. And then if you put the turnouts on a layout panel or a CPC panel, you will see the icons operate on there. So let me I'm going to share that out. I know I've shared this before, but I'm going to share it for effect. So now if you see, I can go here. So you can see that the icon up in the display at the top changes. There's also a layout panel, which is just like this diagram. And I can click here, do the same thing. Or I'm opening my turnouts table, and let's throw turnout S1. I'm just clicking the close thrown button in the turnout table to do this. So a dispatcher could sit at a turnout table and just control turnouts that way, or you can control this and control it from here, which is really cool actually. I have a 18-inch touchscreen tablet that I use to control this with. I just go up my finger and poke the screen and it does the commands for me. So that's the basics of putting a turnout into JMRI. Now you can go in and add a route and tell it what turnouts to throw after you've defined them. So let's go and open up route 2. Yeah, I can share that. Okay. So here, we can go and add a route, and then I want to include 1, 2, 4, 5. We'll do that. So right now there's separate. So we'll do S1, S4, F5 on the diagram. And right now they're set. Oh, what was that? I want to change that close. And move those two as thrown.
Dude, Barry, what was that noise, man? Was that like like the emergency alert system or what?
You got me, buddy.
Somebody's pushing buttons, I suspect.
North 1 ladder, we'll call that. And hit add route. So here now, like I said, you can see these two are now diverging, and this is straight, and reverse it. I don't know. Oh, I did something wrong. Oh, that's right. I shouldn't have set it set throw or set close. I should set it to toggle. It's my fault. There's three options when you set the route for each turnout: close, throw, or toggle. If you want to be able to switch them back and forth, you have to set them to toggle. Now, see that? Bing, 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 bing. Now the locomotive can pull in the yard ladder on switch 1 and cross up to the tail on switch 4 and 5. Then I can clear the ladder so you can back down through the runaround here. Now obviously you can do this in any combination you want, and you still have individual controls. By going to the turnout, I can now say I want to clear S5 so they can back down the tail and go down and decide 1. So between the route table and turnout table, that gives you complete control of all your turnouts on the entire layout. And like I said, you don't need to go down the route of having a control panel like this to use. It's a lot easier to do it with one of these. Let me show you what that looks like.
Now, Barry, on the turnout table,
Yes.
do you have the option, or when you go into edit mode for that turnout, is that where you can add the sensor? I know I have sensors set up on my turnouts in JMRI. I don't see it on your table.
No, it's on the sensor. This is where you would add them in here.
Yeah, that's where you have the sensors, but you can link the sensor to the turnout. I believe it's on the turnout table.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with that, Steve. I'd have to do a little research.
Go to your turnout table and hit edit on one of them.
Yeah, let's see if we can do it. Okay. Comments. Feedback mode is monitoring. Oh, you can do 1 or 2 sensors.
Yeah.
So pick 2 sensors.
So on your feedback, if you hit mode 1 sensor,
yeah,
that's where you would set up a sensor coming back from, like, if you had some sort of sensor set up.
Yeah, so that's where you would monitor, say, the feedback from like the AIU01, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And then also, if you don't have feedback, but you have a relay on your turnout, you can take one of the relay contacts and feed it back through another circuit and use the same thing, and that would be your sensor.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's cool. I've never looked at that because I've never tried doing feedback, but I might have to check that out, see if there's any way I can use a relay contact with the feedback there without replacing all my quad picks with quad LNs. Okay, so that's how I do that. Good.
Yeah, so on your LocoNet, if you have some sort of relay feedback, then that's how you would do it. And then
there's third-party boards you can buy, like JMRI boards and such. It'll take state feedback like that and give it back to JMRI. Just have to define as related to the turnout. I gotta buy some more hardware and play around with all this crap. But I'm just saying the simplest method of control you can use right here, other than like from your local push button or from your throttle, is you can have a dispatcher sit right at this panel and operate that. So, routes. So here you can see the route that's set. And then conversely, you'll see all the levers get thrown. Now you see how S5 is off from S4 because I toggled it. No, I don't believe it. But now it works the way I originally intended it. So you have to be cautious when you're setting your route up. Because the way I'm doing it right now in the route table, I'm going to bring that back up. This is an important point to note. Edit the route. I wish when you had windows that popped open, you could see it. There we go. So in here, see how you can do set closed, set thrown, or toggle. Toggle allows you to hit the one button and flip it back and forth, like I was doing there. Problem being is if I then go and manually throw one of the turnouts in that route, it's now not set the way I want it for the route. So probably the best way to do it is to set a route that is all closed, or a mixture of closed and thrown, how you want it, and then the reverse. So you have two routes for each, like for a switch ladder, say, one to set and one to unset the turnouts the way you want them. So they can go back, you know, say you have your main line set to through, and then your yard switches might be set through up the ladder or into the individual rows. Then you want to set it so I can go to track 3. Now I need to flip turnout 1 to diverging, so I want to throw that. I want to flip the first 2 turnouts to through, and then the last turnout to diverging. But then if I want to undo that, I need to have another route that undoes the same thing. So you could set it to be thrown, close, close, thrown, and then the other one would be close, thrown, thrown, close. Or just reverse, so you can reset the track alignment the way you had it. It can get a little complicated, but if you just sit and think of how what you want things to operate, setting up, using the proper close and thrown commands here, and then saving that like yard ladder 1 thrown, yard ladder 2 closed, it would allow you to control them independently in each direction. Yeah, maybe save on route. So, well, I think that about covers everything I wanted to go over tonight for the different methods of control. I'll see a few notes to add to my slide deck there, you know, for the next time I use it. But I appreciate all your help there, Steve, and all your input, and YouTube, Bob, and Mike, as always. So I think we're going to get headed out of here, folks. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed watching tonight. Everybody have a wonderful evening, and we will be seeing you again next month when we will be beginning our series of JMRI topics on signaling. So there we will be discussing in the beginning prototype signals, what they're used for, and then how those signals were and how you would put them on your layout. And the next phase after that would be the actual start talking of different hardware systems that you would use to make the physical signals work. And we'll probably have to cover a few different systems, more popular ones like Digitrax, maybe even digital or something like that. And then we talk JMRI and implementation of a full-on signaling system, and then see where we go from there. I want to try and do it in a fairly logical manner. The plan going forward is to generate a small layout design where we can take, here's where the prototype signals, this is how they work. On this layout, this is where I would place them, why I would place them, and then here's the hardware I need to make this layout work, so that you can get enough pieces of the puzzle to understand and be able to scale that to a larger layout. So that's the the plan anyway to have several different scenarios like an interlocking, a junction, passing siding, industrial sidings, any place where we would have signaling to use of different types, and then that way we can cover a multitude of prototype signal conditions that we could use on a model railroad. So, anyway, folks, enjoy. Have a wonderful evening. What's left of it, and I will see you all next week or next month with my buddy Mike. All right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.